You have 1 million on every platform.
Pretty much, yeah.
Like over 1 million.
Yeah, over 1 million on TikTok. 2.8, I think.
You have 2 million on TikTok?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that it matters.
It does matter.
I just felt convicted to make a day in the life of a caregiver and made the video and just like posted and wanted to see what would happen. And I checked my phone like 5 minutes later and it was the fastest growing video I've ever put out.
Most people are where you were at. What I'm doing right now isn't all that exciting. Like, what do I have to offer? I don't have, but the principle of just putting stuff out there, sharing what you do.
Yeah.
You're one video away from a complete shift in life. One video.
So I uploaded my first video in 2014, started documenting everything that I was doing.
How long were you doing that until you were like, okay, there's some money?
A few years.
Some people just give up after a couple months.
Yeah.
To see that like you were just doing it, and then you found something that was working.
It was completely a side hustle for me. The main priority was just taking care of my grandma. So to make 30 grand just from selling digital products, it was like, it unlocks so much for me.
Okay, you have eyes on, you have an audience. How are you leveraging all this happening?
Well, I think the first way...
Chris, bro, thanks for coming on to the department.
Thank you for having me, man. It's an honor.
It's so cool because there's not too many friends of mine or people locally that have been creating content for a long time, you know, and I remember making videos and, you know, one of my good friends from high school, Jay, your cousin, I guess since I'm like half Filipino, he's my cousin. Yeah. But, like this cousin of Jay's is like growing his YouTube channel. Like you were growing a YouTube channel. At this point, you have over 1 million followers on every single platform, as in the main ones, to include YouTube, Instagram, TikTok.
Yeah,
Facebook.
Yeah, not to keep throwing in platforms.
Dude, LinkedIn, you got 1 million on LinkedIn.
No.
And I think you have so much insight on the creator journey. And for somebody who, I think there's so many things. It's like, I don't know my niche. I don't know what to make content about. I don't know how I'm gonna make money, like the monetization side of it, and then obviously the workflow side of it. Like, so I want to kind of like trace back, but also start from where you're at now. Like now you have you've hired family to help you run what is now a business.
Yeah,
and it all started from just turning on a camera in your job. Like if it was as plain as that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But before that, what was your entry into content creation? Like I know you like started taking YouTube serious pretty early on.
Yeah, so I started uploading in 2014 and I was really inspired by like the OG, I guess, vloggers like BF versus GF, Charles Trippy, Shaytards, like all these original like family vlogger type of people. I was just really enamored by people turning on a camera, showing what they're doing throughout their life, and then like being able to watch that later. Like put the YouTube aside and all the views, the comments, whatever. Like I thought it was just cool that people are recording and then you're able to watch that later. So that's what I was really inspired by. So I uploaded my first video in 2014. I was like a junior in college and just started documenting everything that I was doing. I wouldn't say that I was like taking it serious. I was just more interested in documentation and being able to watch it later.
So good. Bro, that's literally my journey too.
Yeah. Didn't know that it was going to turn into like a full-time career. Obviously at some point, months down the line, you're like, maybe this could be a full-time thing. But at the beginning, it was just like, I just thought it was cool that you'd be able to watch these memories.
So good. Which it's so hard to, because that is like an intangible, it's like a hunger. You can't make somebody be hungry.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and like it's an intangible place where you're creating from a blissful place.
Yeah.
With no expectation of the outcome.
For sure.
Which it's like people who need an outcome, it's like you have to find that place for you.
Yeah. And it's weird because I feel like I've drifted away from that curiosity of just trying to create for the sake of creating.
Yeah.
And I've really, and maybe this is on you a little bit and like people in your space, but like I've really tried to hone in on what is it that I bring to the table in terms of value. Like what do I say to my audience? Like what is my audience looking for from me? And I've sort of lost that, just document everything. And just whatever happens. I've really just tried to like pinpoint what is it that what's my what value proposition do I bring to the table, and how can I hone in on that? And I feel like at the beginning it was really just like not even thinking about what I bring, and more so just let me turn on the camera and capture everything that's going on.
Yeah. So like, really good. How long were you doing that until you were like, okay, there's some money? Like, like how long was that?
Maybe a few years.
A few years.
Yeah. So just years of like documenting, and then slowly over time, you're like, maybe this could be a career. And then it was the first video that I posted about music. Like it was just a music production focused video. It hit like harder than any other vlog. Like it got past the threshold of 100 views. Like I put out like maybe like hundreds of videos that got average of 100 views.
Wow.
And this production video did like 1,000 in a day or 2 days. And I was like, there's something there. And then there was a comment that was like, how did you do this in the video? And then I made a video about that. And then I was like, wait, I'm speaking to like a specific audience and it's working. And so at the time I was really like trying to make it as a producer. I was trying to sell beats. I was trying to do all this stuff around music production. And then there's like a light bulb that happened a few years later after making these videos about production. I was like, if I know who I'm speaking to and I'm making videos for these people, it's going to work. It's not just like a random, hey, this is what I'm doing throughout the day. It's like, no, I'm talking about music production and how to make beats and all this stuff. And like, these people are coming to me for that. Mm-hmm. And it changed everything for me.
So good. And there is something about what I'm trying to do is pull out the principles from your journey, mm-hmm. And the principles of like, you said like 100 videos, 100 views a video.
Yeah.
Are you willing to do that? Yeah. And there is something about getting in tune with the process of creating, no matter what level you're at, so that you could speak into it if you desire to hand it off or you get an editor or whatever. You know, this is my thing about like, regardless if you're super rich or you're doing this as a bootstrap thing, is content creation is like, it's really putting out your essence on video, mm-hmm. or whatever medium you decide to. And so you can't excuse the fact that you are a content creator.
Yeah.
And so anyway, like I think that's really encouraging because some people just give up after a couple months.
Yeah.
And to see that like you just doing it, and then you found something that was working.
Yeah.
And resonating. What would you say to a person that says the thing that's working is not what I want to be known for, though?
Interesting. I've come across that in my career too. I don't know. I don't know what you do, like, because I've been caught in that. Like I was caught like at the end of the production days of like the peak, right? Like making tons of money. Like I got everything that I wanted out of music production. And then I found myself stuck in that same place of like, I'm doing something that I'm not really passionate about anymore, but I'm doing it because it's generating income. And like, this is what people know me for. And you just have to like the only piece of advice that I have, and the thing that I did was I just tried other things. But it's so difficult because if you wrap your identity in the thing that you do, it's so hard to like break out of that.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Especially if it's bringing you money, if it's paying the bills, if it's doing all this thing, like people love you for it. It's so hard to break out of that.
Yeah.
But the only way to break out of it is to try other things and see what else works.
Yeah. I mean, I personally had a limiting belief when I was transitioning from Think Media.
Yeah.
It was like, this is the most known I'll ever be. It's only backwards from here. Yeah. And I just remembered like how I guess you could say how valuable the videos I was creating and how high production. And I'm like, dude, but yeah, like here's the end of Omar. You know, that was like a thought that generally happened in my mind. But it was actually other people who were like, no, dude, you hold your own merit as a human being.
Yeah.
Like when you put videos out on the internet, hopefully good videos, that phrase is crazy. It is what you're doing is like when I say the essence of you being out there, people are drawing a connection to you regardless.
Yeah. Regardless of what you're doing.
Yeah. And of the people that are watching. But I think there's something about like as we evolve as humans, as we mature, as we get smarter, as we have families, we get married and like all that stuff, like, of course it's going to affect the content itself.
Yeah.
I think there's something about learning about reinvention of self and being okay with whatever comes with, that next step. But like, yes, don't put your identity in that stuff.
Yeah.
I put the last 2 videos, I had 9 out of 10 and today's 10 out of 10.
And that's tough, right? Like
Yeah,
even
just
now, like as much as you tell people like your identity is not wrapped up in the videos that you make, it's just that's just not who you are. It's just what you do. But even now, like I'll put out a video and it's like, because after like all the grandma stuff, like, you know, everything is not, it pales in comparison to like what was going on a couple years ago. So now it's, even though I tell people like, hey, that doesn't really matter. Like if you get a 9 out of 10 or whatever, like
I got to upload next week. I mean, that's where my mind goes is like, I mean, it's not fighting for the viral thing every time. I understand. What I'm doing is I'm creating a arsenal of content that could serve somebody in their journey of making money online, content creation, or whatever. So you were selling digital products.
Yeah.
Like how much in your music production stuff were you making on the side at this point?
So it started off, I remember the first year of like fully selling digital production stuff, I did like 30,000.
So,
and I was like,
that's like a teacher's full-time salary.
Yeah. Well, crazy. Yeah. I was like, dude, I'm set for life, right? Like I got generational life. That's how I was thinking, because I've never before that, like I've had jobs, I've had, you know, I've just worked regular jobs, like working at Kohl's, working at like all these department stores. I've never made money online before that. And I didn't know anybody in my family making money online. I didn't know I didn't know anybody in the space. So to make 30 grand just from selling digital products, it was like, it unlocks so much for me.
Ruins you in the best way.
It ruins you in the best way, because you don't want to do anything else. Because you're like, I made all this stuff in my bedroom, didn't have to leave. I just made YouTube videos. I didn't have to ship anything. I didn't have to physically send anything out. It changed the game for me. And then it just kept scaling up from there. And then like at the peak of it, I don't know if we're fast forwarding, but like I ended up signing a deal with Twitch. And then I ended up flipping that into like a multiple 6-figure thing, like by just streaming on Twitch and also selling all my stuff digitally online. And
I didn't even know that like Twitch does deals. Did you know that? Sorry. I just did. Well, but what does that look like?
Like what did that deal look like?
Yeah, like I mean, as far as like, did they reach out to you? Did you reach out to them?
Yeah, so they reached out
I'm trying to get Twitch money, bro.
I know, right? It's still going on, but like they reached out to a producer homie of mine, Eldre, and I remember doing an interview with him because he was like running out of content ideas. So he's like, "Bro, come on stream with me. I'll interview you.
Hey, that's a great principle right there.
I'll slide you some cash." And I was like, great. And then after the call, he told me like what was going on. And I was like, bro, I want to get in on that.
Yeah.
And then a couple days later, the person that he got in contact with at Twitch reached out to me and was like, yo, we'd love to sign you. You get this amount for streaming this amount of hours. And I was like, bro, what? I get to get paid for doing my thing online and that's it? And so I did that. And on the side, I was doing brand deals and like leveraging the platform, because they would put you on the front page. They would like really boost you to your audience. So I was leveraging that and like still selling digital products, doing the YouTube stuff, hired an editor, like did the whole thing and like really took advantage of that opportunity.
So good. And I think this is cool because this is pre-2020.
Yeah.
Like there's a world that we're living in right now where a lot of people timed it, like, you know, they were able to time it.
Yeah.
And shout out to them for doing that. But there is a richness and a depth that you have when it comes to content creation simply because of that era in creating content.
Yeah, for sure. All the reps. Yeah. Like even before the production stuff, of just all the reps of like uploading footage and then editing footage and then exporting, like all of that is part of the creation process. And like all the reps involved in that, it helps you out in ways that you don't even realize.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, digital products, dude. I remember my preset, it like, that's what my brain breaking moment was. I created a tutorial on how to edit photos in Adobe Lightroom. And I said, hey, by the way, I'm using my preset to transform this photo. Check it out in the link below. And like that video alone, I think made me in a summer, like around 10 grand.
Yeah.
Which my mortgage was $800. And we had somebody renting out a room for 300. Yeah. So like really it paid for like a year of our mortgage.
Yeah.
And it was just one video. And my thing is like, well, if you could just like, just all roads lead to something. Yeah. And my thing, I find what I'm doing now is I'm trying to actually, everyone has all these ideas and really it's just about picking the one thing. Like, you know, how do you want to get people this value? And a digital product is great because like you said, there's no shipping and handling involved.
Yeah. And I've delved into the world of like physical products and I know how heavy it is to like be shipping out like a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
And also just dealing with with shipping services and all that. Like it's a headache that is eliminated completely with digital products.
Yeah.
So
that's cool. Okay, so you laid a foundation of the skill, of like a little bit of the know-how, and then during this time you're also a full-time caretaker for your grandma.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you never really put that part of your life out there.
Not until a little bit later. But yeah, while I was scaling this business on the side, like it was completely a side hustle for me, because the main priority was just taking care of my grandma. But the thing about like YouTube and making content and digital products, like you could do that from anywhere.
Right.
Like you don't have to be at an office or wherever. So I was building it on the side while being a full-time caregiver.
So then what was that like, as far as like the moment or where you like made the first few pieces of content about that part of your life?
I think it was like early, like either during COVID or like right before COVID. I just on TikTok, I just felt this thing in me to like make a day in the life of what a caregiver is like. Nobody asked me what a caregiver's life is like. I just, for some reason, I just had this idea to do it. And it's funny, like whenever I don't know if it's the same for you, whenever I have these like really good video ideas, it's all I can think about. It almost feels like a burden that I have to go and execute on this. Otherwise, like I won't be able to continue with anything else.
Right. I call it conviction-based content.
Yeah.
That you feel something within you to like go and make it, talk about it, do it.
Yeah.
And actually like that's where like you can not care so much about the production value, because there's so much enthusiasm in what you're doing.
Yeah.
People could feel the heart and soul.
Yeah.
But that is a window that tends to close. And then if you don't do anything with it,
I think that's how almost all ideas die, right? Like we all have great ideas that we want to act on, but then we let it simmer a little bit too long. And then a week or 2 weeks goes by and you're like, that wasn't really that good of an idea. But in the moment, if you do create that thing while you have the conviction, people can feel that. I 100% can feel when people are like making videos about something they're fully convicted about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just felt convicted to make a day in the life of a caregiver and posted it and didn't think anything of it. I just thought,
which I would say most people would think nothing of it. That is not a, and this is why it's like it all could work for anyone.
Yeah.
But like, nobody thinks anything of it. But then, you go ahead and start documenting and
just document it. And the moment I posted it, like I put my phone down. And again, I know it's almost hard for people to believe that because of how much foundation I have in content creation. I feel like an outsider would be like, well, I mean, if you make videos, you kind of know what would do well and what wouldn't. And this one was just genuinely made the video and just like posted and just wanted to see what would happen.
Yeah.
And I checked my phone like 5 minutes later and that video was like, I don't even remember how many views it was, but it was the fastest growing video I've ever put out. And bro, people went like insane for it. Like you would never think that a day in the life of a caregiver would like, garner so much attention, because it's such mundane things. Like I'm just helping my grandma get in and out of the wheelchair, helping her eat breakfast, like all these things that we do every single day. And you just never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
It's cool because it's like kind of full circle, because you started with the vlog kind of thing, and then you went into production and like tutorial stuff. And then this thing that you did initially is like working, but there's something going on right now. There's this guy who has like a boring life, and you know what I'm talking about? Like he literally is a regular employee.
Yeah.
And he just like, his breakfast and like him at his computer.
Yeah.
And it's normalizing norm in a world where like there's sensational content.
Yeah.
I would say it's wholesome. And I think that's what people got out of the content you were posting, is like, this is so human. Like you're putting on display the human experience.
Yeah, for sure. And the life of a caregiver, which I guess I really haven't done much research on. Like I haven't done, what do they call it when you like go out and you research the competition?
Yeah.
I haven't done much like analysis on like what other caregivers are doing in the space or whatever. But yeah, I guess people were just interested in the fact that like this is a young dude, which most guys don't become caregivers, especially for a grandmother or a mother or whatever. It's mostly.
How did that even happen? How did you become your grandma's caregiver?
So one day she just woke up and was unable to get out of bed. Couldn't move her joints. She couldn't like rotate herself out of bed anymore. And that night we just had to make a decision. Like, are we going to send grandma to home care, or like what's our next move? And I was like, there's no way I'm going to let my grandmother go into another home when I have full capability of, you know, being able to take care of her. Cause I was coming out of college. Like, it was my last semester of college. I was still working from home, doing the YouTube stuff, and also like working at the college, but I was doing some like design stuff for them, so I could be at home. And I was like, I'll do it. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what like you're gonna be a full-time caregiver meant, but I just knew that I didn't want my grandma to go to a home.
Yeah. Okay.
So
wow, good on you, bro. Like, honestly, I believe God's gonna honor that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's hard for me to talk about, I guess, the blessing from that time because it feels so heavy sometimes. Sure. But all the people that I meet, all the caregivers that I meet, and just even the blessings that have happened during the caregiving stuff and after is so, it's heavy because it's like, it almost feels like undeserving at times, you know, like this is like a lot. But yeah, I mean, but in the moment of deciding to do that, I wasn't like, yeah, I'm going to be a caregiver and like, I'm going to dedicate my life to my grandma. It was just like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just I think the thing is most people are where you were at. Like, what I'm doing right now isn't all that exciting. Like, what do I have to offer? I don't have, but I think there's something about the principle of just putting stuff out there, sharing what you do.
Yeah.
And you're one video away from a complete shift in
100%.
life. One video. Hey, Department fam, wanted to take a brief break from this conversation. I hope you're enjoying it as much as I am. And the first thing I wanted to talk about is that, did you know that 75% of the people that watch this podcast on YouTube actually aren't subscribed, which is a high chance that you're not subscribed. So number one, I want to say thank you for listening or watching the podcast. And number two, if you can hit that subscribe button, that would be amazing. The second thing is, if you are an entrepreneur, content creator, or somebody looking to make money online, I want to encourage you to come to this online event called the Content to Cash Challenge. This is a special 5-day event that's going to give you access to the system I use in my business to make multiple 6 figures with my content. If you've been desiring to either get your business and brand more exposure, grow a YouTube channel, whatever it is when it comes to video, I would encourage you to jump into the Content to Cash Challenge. We'll be sure to post the link to the challenge down in the show notes or the description. And I want to encourage you to jump into the VIP experience. This will give you access to a 1-hour Q&A call every day of the challenge. This will guarantee myself to answer a personalized question you may have. So I'll see you on the Content to Cash Challenge. Now let's jump back into the conversation.
And I know it's hard for people to like wrap their head around it, because if it hasn't happened to you yet, it's like, and you've been you posted 100 videos and you're like, bro.
But in this case, the one video came, I mean, how many years since your first video?
Bro, it was like thousands of videos. Right, it was thousands of videos. But I think the thing that kept me going wasn't because I was thinking like, it's just one more video.
Yeah, right.
It was just because like I really enjoyed making videos.
Dude, and that's my heart too, is just find the joy in that.
Yeah.
Because then it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Because that's the thing that'll keep you going.
100. Okay, so that one pops off. You're like, oh my goodness. And at that point, what do you just your phone?
Just phone,
wireless mic.
Before that, not even just music over it and figuring out.
Yeah, I think even like the quality was actually probably
scientifically. Later down the line, I was like, I don't want to use my back camera. It was all very practical. It wasn't like I wanted the quality to be low because I wanted it to look like a homemade video. Which now that I look back, maybe that's part of the charm in it. It wasn't filmed on like you know what I mean? Like it wasn't filmed on a high quality camera. But I just used the front camera so I could make sure that I'm in frame and I could see what's going on. And I didn't want to use the back camera because I can't see what's going on. But before the mic'd up stuff, which is the thing that took it to the next level, like I was just filming on the front camera and put music over it.
Dang, audio took it to the next level,
dude. And people would be surprised. I mean, you know this because you're this is what you do, but like audio is like 80% of a video. You know, like you can't watch a video with low quality audio, but you can watch a video with high quality audio when the video quality might not be as good.
And it brings it's how a viewer feels close. So I think what it did, it created an intimacy in the moments you were capturing.
Yeah.
But like, okay, so are you sunsetting the production stuff? because like this is starting to grow.
So,
and are you? Oh, wait, by the way, are you just posting on every platform?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm just taking that
the
one
same
thing,
vertical video on every platform.
Yeah.
Okay,
100%.
Cool.
So at the end of the 6-month Twitch deal, I went on a little like week-long vacation to try and figure out my life because I was already burnt out from like making videos about music. I didn't want to talk about music anymore. I felt very isolated in the fact that I only could. This is the only thing that I felt like I could deliver to the world.
Wow.
So then coming out of that, I just remember like really longing for something new. And so, you know, obviously I tried to play around with production style videos, but there was just no passion behind it anymore. And then I posted that one mic'd up video and bro, just
how many views did you get?
Bro, like 1 million in like 10 minutes.
That's wild.
It's insane.
1 million in 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's like
there's like no other vehicle on this planet where that level of exposure can take place. It's crazy.
But I wasn't like, but as soon as I saw the numbers, I wasn't like, yeah, let's take advantage of this. You know what I mean? It was like,
I would say from my point of view, that's always like that is a thought.
Yeah.
Like how are they swinging it? Like, is it, and some people will think, are you making a lot of money with those kinds of views? Like what would be the payouts for just those types of viewership on short form content?
Just for the short form content, it's not much.
Right.
I mean, it's not, I mean, maybe I don't know what the rate is. Like, obviously it's always changing. TikTok and Instagram and shorts, like they're always changing. So I don't really know what the rate is, but I know it's not enough to be sustainable.
Right.
And also to be relying on AdSense or like ad pay, it's like, it's very unstable. So the money is not in the, I mean, it can be in the ads, but it's not in the views. It's in the, I mean, you know this, it's in the other stuff. It's in the back end stuff.
Underneath this content.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay. 10 minutes, 1 million.
10 minutes, 1 million. So I was like, this is cool. Like there was like zero effort in creating the content. Cause I'm just literally like chucking the phone in the corner and going about my day as a caregiver for grandma. And like, I would record our conversations, like the conversations that we would have every single day. Wow. Me and my grandma had like the same 7 conversations every single day.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And like, I just happened to film them and like people found a lot of value in that. And then I just started doing what I was doing when I first found the production videos. Like I would look through the comments, see what people are asking and try and be helpful to people. Like, yo, I'm also a caregiver for my mom or whatever. Like, what do you do in this situation? Like, what do you do for meals? How do you transfer upstairs? How do you take showers? Like all these things. I just decided to speak to these people directly because I saw how much it was like positively impacting people's lives.
So good. It's because I'm trying to get into the mind of like the person watching this who resonates with, number one, they believe what they have is not interesting. Number two, they're like, I don't know how long I can do this for until it doesn't make sense or whatever. But you did something because you felt something internally. And then because you're doing it, it created a feedback loop. It's like you tapped into an unlimited flow of content ideas now because you were doing the thing.
Yeah.
It's backwards because we want all the information before we start.
Yeah.
But you get information as you go.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. You there's so many things that reveal themselves to you through the process.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, just kept looking through comments and just tried to provide as much value to people as possible because the DM, like where I really saw how much of an impact these videos were making were through the DMs and emails that I was getting. Like, hey, I used to be a caregiver for my grandmother and like watching these videos is like healing a part of me.
Wow.
Or like me and my grandma would speak Kapampangan in the videos and people would reach out and like, I haven't heard Kapampangan in like 15 years since my grandma passed. And hearing that makes me feel like I'm at home.
Wow.
And that's when I knew like whatever people are saying, whatever those Reddit threads are saying about me, it doesn't matter because if I'm speaking to these people and I'm like able to help them in a way that no other videos can help them, like this is only doing good for people.
Right.
So
good. Okay. So at what point did you start at what point were you then taking all this information and figuring out how can we, and I use this word very cautiously,
I know.
Leverage it. Okay. You have eyes on, you have an audience.
Yeah.
How are you leveraging all this happening?
Well, I think the first way to, I guess if you want to call it leveraging, like it was just to repurpose all the content on multiple platforms, not just TikTok, not just Instagram, just so I could not be held to one platform, because I think it is kind of dangerous sometimes to only be on one platform, because I mean,
100.
you know, with TikTok going away for a day,
people went
crazy, and I think that's when people started to realize like I should probably like branch out and have access to these people.
Yep.
So I think that was one. And then I think the second thing was like people just started asking.
Wait, do you use a scheduler or anything? I mean,
no, not at the time. I was like manually posting. This is before I even knew scheduling existed.
Sure.
I knew scheduling existed on YouTube.
I have a theory though, like
what?
That if you use a third-party scheduling app to blast all your content, I don't know. I just feel like
I've seen people talk about. I don't have enough data to like say if it is or not, but
it's a theory.
But yeah, I was manually posting everything because I wanted even though I was reposting the same content on throughout each platform, every piece of content on that platform was specific to that. So if I knew I had an inside joke with my community on TikTok, I would say it in the I would say it in the caption.
Oh, wow.
And I would do the same on Instagram. So it'd be a completely different caption. I'd be saying it differently.
Wow.
And I loved like tapping into the comments in the first 10, 20 minutes because it's a habit that I've had since the beginning of the production videos. Really I've always just tapped in to the comments to see what people are saying, to reply.
Dude, comment culture is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a whole other world.
Yeah.
You know, because like so much can happen inside that place.
And I think it says a lot about the creators sometimes if they do tap into the comments.
Sure.
Like within the, you know, because even me, like I don't really leave many comments on people's pages, but when I do and they respond, I still kind of, you know, it's huge for me. And like, there's a connection there that happens because it's like, oh, he noticed or she noticed me like in the comments, like saying that I love the video. So leveraging was the first piece of leveraging was making sure I was posting on every platform. And then the second one was like, people were just asking for, hey, can we have like shirts or like, hey, I would love to rock a Tuesday, like beanie or something.
Can you break down Tuesday?
Yeah. So Tuesday was just like, for some reason, it's just the way that Filipinos say Tuesday. And, and like,
I'm laughing because of my mom my whole life.
Right? It's so funny. Like they say, so my grandma said Tuesday because I was like, what day is it? Or she was asking me what day it was. And I told her it's Tuesday. And she's like, oh, Tuesday. And then people in the comments loved it. Like they were like, oh, Tuesday, it's Tuesday. Like people always remind me when it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
So then I don't know, like I remember me and my cousins made these enamel pins, like, I don't know, maybe like 10 years prior. And I was like, I wonder how they would do if I made pins about like Tuesday and like my grandma's face on it. Cause somebody sent me a piece of art, with my grandma and I thought it was cute. So
you were creating like fans.
Yeah. I essentially, but that was never like at the forefront of like, I'm like creating a community of people. I was just kind of like, I was just in the rhythm of doing what I've always been doing.
Yeah. Right.
Of just like, you know, talking to people. So I made some pins. I made like 400 pins. And I was like, I have no idea how this is going to go.
And the cost, what was that cost? Because I imagine you're fronting a cost now.
Yeah.
In hopes to sell something.
It's like cents for like each pin.
And you went on like Alibaba?
Yeah. Okay. And like just made the pins and didn't think anything of it. Because before in the production days, so my main thing was digital products, but I did play around with physical products, but they never did well. So I was like, I don't even know how this is going to go. Posted them online. In the first 5 minutes, they were gone.
400
just gone. And I was like scrambling. I was like, wait, there's still like thousands of people on the site that want the pins. Like, what do I do? So I just put them out for pre-order after they sell out, you know? So then I was like, I told everybody, hey, like I'm going to have these open for pre-order until the end of the weekend. And then by the end of the weekend, I'll cut it off. And then dude, like by Sunday evening when I was about to shut it off, there were like 3,000 orders.
Wow.
And then the next day it said in like, I have to ship out 3,000 orders.
That's crazy.
So we had no system in place. We didn't even know how to send out the initial 400. Like we were just like, we didn't know anything about packing slips. We were like manually checking, like, what did this person order? Like check the site.
Yeah.
It was insane, but it was such a fun time.
Sure. I feel like most people have that moment in their entrepreneur journey.
Yeah, it's something you'll never forget.
Yeah, I have found it's kind of it's like people believe growth is gradual many times, and it is. Mm-hmm. But there are what is called quantum leaps, where like it's in a moment. It's 10 minutes, a million views.
Yeah.
It's put this thing out there. It's 3,000 orders.
Yeah.
And those are good things when that happens. Like the overwhelm is awesome because it just shows like, okay, here's a new place we can create a foundation on.
Yeah.
So like that launch, like how much did you make on that launch?
I think we made close to like 37,000, which was like, bro, in a weekend, it like blew my brain. I remember the first time I did 10,000 a month just from the production stuff. And it's funny because I was thinking about you in the shower, low key, like just like going through this like conversation of like what we would talk about. And I just remember for some reason thinking about the first time I made $10,000 in a month. It completely blew my brain, but it blew my brain in a way that was like, wait, there aren't balloons and like confetti happening when $10,000 hits your bank account for the month. And like that was the shift in my brain that I knew like money doesn't really make you happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I remember having this conversation with my mom, like the first time I made 10,000, I was like, it didn't really do anything for me. Yeah. It was just a number.
Bro, it's numbing.
Yeah.
And I think that comes for two reasons. Number one, you either get it out your system at a certain level. Some people I think everybody has a different threshold.
Yeah.
So for some, it's like you had to make 3 million, waste it all to realize, you know?
Yeah.
And thankfully, like, I think because we're generous, we give back. And I think we have servants' hearts that, yeah, you become numb to the numbers.
Yeah. And it just doesn't like, but it just proved to me that money doesn't equal happiness at all. Like it just equals like you being able to buy your time back or you being able to serve people in different ways. Yep. But it doesn't bring me joy at all. The thing that brings me joy is service to other people. And like, I get to use this money to help out other people.
So good.
So yeah, we made I don't remember what the original question was, but we made the 37 and I was like, dude, this is crazy. Yeah. This is insane.
And then the followers on every platform is just growing and growing.
Growing. It's just growing. I wasn't really keeping track of like how much the followers were going up, but yeah, I just remember like, so we did the pin stuff,
which was selling your own thing,
selling my own thing.
Yep.
So selling my own thing in addition to like all the ad stuff. And then I was also doing brand deals at the time too.
Let's unpack brand deals.
Yeah. So I was doing brand deals like, and I was because I had already some foundation with brand deals. Like I've done a ton of brand deals prior to that outside of the caregiving stuff, just about music production. So I had experience with brand deals.
Can you just quickly say what's cool about brand deals and what's whack about brand deals? Because there's two sides to them.
Yeah. So the cool thing about brand deals, I mean, there's a bunch of things, but like the cool thing is like some off top, like a brand reaching out to you, like, I want to give you some money to promote my thing. That's cool, right? Because they think you're valuable enough and they think you could bring value to their business because you know you're killing it or whatever. But the thing that's whack is like sometimes having to conform to whatever rules that they give you.
Like they get creative control sometimes.
Yeah. And like they're like, can you say this differently? Can you like the text here, like can you put our little thing here at the bottom? Can you make the caption like that? That's the thing that's whack about brand deals, which I don't really.
I think sometimes it takes relationship and there are opportunities that present where they're like, no, whatever you want.
Yeah.
We trust you.
And that's what I wanted from the beginning. Like, so when even before the pin stuff, like people were reaching out, like all kinds of companies were reaching out like, hey, we want to do a brand deal. But I never wanted to make what I did like something that I could sell as a service to a brand.
Sure.
So I was very adamant about like, hey, if we do a brand deal, I'm going to do it in a way that I want, and I'm not going to make my grandma say anything in particular. And I'm only going to be doing my caregiving stuff. And maybe I'll like, if I could weave it in organically, then I'll do it. So I said no to a lot of money like throughout this time because like people just wanted me to do certain things that I wasn't cool with.
Dude, me and Amanda are watching this series on HBO on like that family that adopted a kid from Japan. And they found out later on that he was autistic and that wasn't disclosed. And so they gave him back.
Oh, wow.
But they were like family vloggers.
Yeah.
And they had 2 other white kids, but every thumbnail was the Asian boy.
Really?
And they were leveraging in the worst way possible this adoption story. He became the hero of the channel, and they were getting so many views. People were like so invested in the process. And I think there's just something about having that integrity.
Yeah.
This is so side note. I'm in the documentary.
No way, yeah. Really? He's the Asian guy 10 years later?
That's hilarious. No, they came to Kyle's house when we were doing Think Media stuff.
Yeah.
And they interviewed Sean as the expert. And so like Amanda's just watching it. I fell asleep because I like napped.
Yeah.
And then she screams, Omar. And I woke up and it's like the B-roll of us creating videos with Sean. Yeah. They told us to like, like, hey, make videos, guys. Yeah. But then he, it was just hilarious. And anyway, I say all that to say there's nothing like, and really it's kind of like a figurative way of selling your soul, right? You want to have peace about the deal.
Yeah.
But what was the first brand that reached out?
That we decided to work with? Mm-hmm. It was Carewell.
What did they do?
They sell like incontinence products, like pads, like adult diapers, like anything that you would need for an elderly person or somebody that you're taking care of.
Yeah. How did you guys arrive to like the structure of that deal?
So the first one was just like, they reached out and were like, hey, we love what you're doing. We'd love to see how we could work together. And I was like, sure, like send me some stuff, like, and we'll see how we could incorporate it. And it was just like product placement for stuff that we were already using.
Yeah.
So they sent like Aquaphor and diapers and thankfully like my grandma's insurance covered most of the stuff that she needed, but just having the extra stuff to be able to use and like confidently talk about, made the partnership like so smooth. To this day, I haven't worked with a brand or a company that worked as well as that. That's because cool. We went on to work on like a bunch of stuff. Like I ended up doing like a TV commercial for them, shot on the iPhone.
No way.
Yeah, so it was just so smooth because everything about it was so organic. I didn't have to force my grandma to say anything. I didn't have to like talk about things that I wasn't comfortable talking about. It was so like seamless. I was just going about my day and talking about the stuff that I'm using.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Was that the only one, or did you just have other ones here and
so
there?
we did that, and I was encouraging people to vote. Like there's a company that reached out, like just telling me to like encourage people to vote for midterms.
Wow.
And then I talked about my grandma's whole history of like in the Philippines. She used to be, I forgot what they call them, but she would be like a teller, I think, or like she would just make sure that people, because they were doing like physical voting in the Philippines, and she was just making sure like people weren't like looking over and making sure that the votes were legit. And like there was a lot of bribery going on at the time, like people trying to bribe her to sway the votes a certain way, but she never wanted to do that because she just stood on business.
Yeah.
So that's the story that I told.
Sick, dude.
Yeah.
And then you did that for years, and in this, and I know I'm just like unpacking everything from my perspective. You started a podcast with your cousins, which I love. Even just that idea, like get your bros, get your girls, start a podcast.
Yeah.
And I feel like what you did, maybe you did know or you didn't know what you were doing, was you were letting people get longer, content of you.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't, again, there's so much. I feel like the way that I went about my whole career is very like, I don't want to say it's unconventional, but I never had these things at the forefront of my mind. Like, hey, let's make a podcast so people could spend, I forgot what the quote is, but like people spend
watch time.
Yeah. Or like people spend like 2 hours with, or 7 hours with you on like whatever
if somebody wants to make a buying decision, they need to spend 7 hours with you.
I wasn't thinking about that. I was just like, hey, I want to hang out with my cousins longer and have an excuse to do it. So we started a podcast, and we just, for like 250 plus episodes, we just sat down every single week and talked about whatever.
That's so cool.
And I just, the thing that drove us to do it, or really drove me to continue doing it, was that I just loved spending time with my cousins. And I knew that if we didn't have this recording on Wednesday every single week, we're never gonna make the time to hang out with each other. Like there's no world where we're just hanging out on a random Wednesday with each other, like just because. So
I'm taking like notes of this like whole journey. So here's the cool thing about this podcast and podcasting in general and unpacking stories and other people's journey is pulling the principles. Like there are things you did that can be implemented now because you went about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like figuring that out. So you guys do the podcast, and it dude, I love, number one, you guys you did it without the care of whatever people thought.
Mm-hmm.
This was you in the most selfless way. You're like, we're doing this for us.
Yeah.
Again, it's like it's the theme of documenting.
Yeah.
So just document us in this era of time.
Yeah.
And your guys' dynamic was just hilarious. I mean, I know that some people, I feel like you guys went viral just posting, like, laughing.
Yeah, sometimes it would just like be no talking and just complete laughter, just because. And it wasn't like, hey, this video is gonna do well. It was like, we thought this was hilarious, so let's just make it a little clip.
Hey, question for you. Are you somebody who is looking to start creating content, or maybe you currently create content, but all the gear and the tech just overwhelms you? If so, I wanted to let you know about our sponsor for this podcast, Ulanzi. Whether you're creating content with your smartphone, a camera, or just trying to take your Zoom calls to the next level, Ulanzi has everything you need to make your setup look and sound professional. I've been using their gear myself, and honestly, it's been a complete game changer for my content. You can check them out at ulanzi.com/Omar, and we've got some amazing picks for you. And also, if you look at the description below, we have a special promo code that will give you 12% off your entire order. Big thanks to Ulanzi for sponsoring this episode and helping us create. Yeah, so like, but you did figure out ways to then later on monetize that with a community.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're doing this podcast, and then how many episodes in was it like, okay, let's start a paid community? And then I'd like to know, what did you give that paid community? What did they get for joining?
I think it was like 90 episodes in. I was like, hey, we should probably start like a Patreon or something, because that's what people do, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Now it's like school.
Yeah, for real. But we just started a Patreon, which comes with this Discord connectivity. And if you're not familiar with Discord, it's just like a place where it's like a AOL chat room that people can go to. And there's a bunch of different channels where you could talk about whatever it is, like fitness, food, music, whatever. So we just built a community around that. And then slowly over time, it grew, and people were making like real life connections through the Discord. Like we had this channel called IRL, FMP IRL, where people from the Discord would meet and would just hang out in real life. And I was like starting to see the impact of just building a community, or like building a hub for people to go to with common interests, and then seeing how that blossoms. And like people got married through the Discord.
Dang.
People were like, this is where people met their significant other. Like this is where they met friends for life. This is where I met friends that I have for life. Like I feel like that I consider them really close friends, and I met them through the Discord.
Wow.
So
sick. And then so how much did you guys charge for that community?
So we had 3 different tiers. We had a $5 tier, a $10 tier, and then we had a $25 tier, I think. And then towards the end, we had like 6 or 7, with the highest tier being like, I think $50. And we had like a few people in that one. So.
And then collectively, like, what was the best month of the Patreon?
Of just the Patreon, probably the best month we had was maybe like, I want to say like 2,500.
2,500 a month.
2,500 a month, yeah.
And that's now that's just like, reinvesting into the equipment you guys have.
Mm-hmm. Like paying people that we would hire, like stuff like that. So
that's tight.
Yeah.
And then you guys started selling merch.
Yeah. So we started selling merch. We did physical products for the podcast, did way better. Not than the pins, but like did way better than any other physical product I did pre-pins.
Wow.
So those always did really well. And then we had a live show one time, and that did really well.
And how many years did you guys go for?
I want to say maybe 3.5.
3.5 years. And then why did you decide to kill it?
I just didn't feel like interested in like showing up anymore. There's just, it's as simple as that. Like there was a few things that happened like in the background with family. Like there was some family going through some health stuff, and like, so we put it on pause because of that. And like trying to come back to it after, it just wasn't the same. So we just decided to stop doing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think there's something cool about how in tune you are with knowing when a season's done.
Yeah.
And like just trusting God that like whatever comes from the next season.
Yeah.
So you're doing that in tandem with, the caregiving content. And then now you're in a completely different era.
Yeah.
You know, sorry for your loss. And
Mhm.
I think there is so much to be grateful for because of like how you went about the last years of her life and how
Yeah.
she's going to be remembered.
Mhm.
Like, it's kind of like a crazy thought that like we believe what we're doing right now is going to be how we're going to be remembered, you know? And what you gave, what your grandma was such a blessed way to be remembered, and that was at the end of her life, like,
Yeah.
you know. But with that, now you have this audience,
Mhm.
and I'm sure you had, I don't know, like you obviously taking the time to grieve and stuff, and I feel
Mhm.
like now you're on the turnaround. What's like the new reinvention of Chris
Yeah.
for the people that follow you?
That's so interesting that you ask, because like this whole year, so my grandma passed January 28 of last year in 2024, and I've spent the entire year just trying to answer that question for myself, and really more intensely in all of January I was just trying to figure out like what is the next move for me, like what does this look like. And recently it's really just been because I've spent so much like money and time and resources into like courses and like different seminars and like going down rabbit holes of like what do I do, you know what I mean? And like more recently I've realized the thing that I want to help people with is their health, and more specifically like their movement, in a way that they could be strong and resilient and live a long healthy life and not need a caregiver later in their life. If I can do that, then I feel like I've taken what I've been given,
Wow,
and like really used it for good. Because I saw how much pain my grandma was in, and I saw like how much of a heavy burden it was for my entire family to like have to tend to my grandmother. As much as like it's difficult for caregivers to say that like caregiving for somebody is a burden, like part of it is a burden, and it's heavy. It's a responsibility. It's something that we love to do because we love this person, but it's a burden and it's heavy. And if I can train people and help people become resilient, have the movement, have the capabilities to be strong until the end of their life, not needing a caregiver, then I feel like I've taken what I've learned from this 8 years of being a caregiver and like turned it into good.
yeah, that's
So
fire.
that's where I think my next move is.
And you're writing a book?
Yeah. So we're writing a book about my experience, and then it's sort of a two-part book. So part of it is telling the story, and then the other part is like a handbook of like, if you are a caregiver, this is how I got through it. These are all the little keys and gems that my grandma taught me, and the things that I've learned along the way to make it through the 8 years.
So good.
So
just some little things that I want your opinion on. So when it comes to uploading, and I know there's contexts, but just whatever comes to mind, quantity or quality?
If you can have both, why not both? And also like because quantity is like is an objective thing, right? And quality is so subjective.
Yep.
So like, what I guess if you could really define what quality is, like for me in the time that I was making caregiving content, the reason I consider it quality is not because of the video, is not because of the audio, it's the content within the content. Like what is it that what kind of value are you delivering to people through the content? And if you can clearly say what it is, then I think it's quality. And if you could do both, if you could make valuable content and upload it at a high clip, then that to me is the win. But yeah, I would say I guess if you wanted like one answer, like which one is more important, I'd say quality, but not in terms of
Production value.
production
you
value.
Mean content value.
Yeah, content value. What is it that you're delivering to the people?
Okay, another one is long form or short form.
Oh, that's good, because my whole career, I guess the whole back half of my career was built on short form. I love both.
Yeah.
And I think you can do both. I think the easiest way is the way that you're doing it, like to prioritize the long form content, and then to make sure that is solid, and then you can make short form content out of that. And that's almost what I was doing. Like all the videos that I recorded with my grandma are like 30 plus minutes. I would just break them down into like several pieces of content. So like I would just let the camera record for like 30, 40 minutes and then go into the editing room and like chop up like, here's 1 minute, here's another minute, here's another minute, here's another minute. And it's the same format as like a podcast. You just record an hour-long podcast and then you chop it up.
Sweet. And then best editing platform. You're a Final Cut guy, huh?
I'm a Final Cut guy, so I'm gonna go with Final Cut.
Did you ever tap into CapCut with all the?
Oh yeah, okay. For sure. I tapped into CapCut. I used Adobe when I was in college. But yeah, I just think Final Cut is the best for me because I have all the shortcuts on lock, and I could pump out a video like quick on Final Cut.
I did forget to mention that when you had your guys' podcast, you shot that thing on phones.
Yeah,
for a long time.
A lot, like more than half of the podcast was shot on the front camera of the phone.
That's crazy. Yeah. No, I remember like you guys airdropped it too. It was like the longest transfer.
But we had to make sure like your screen was on never turn off, and then like make sure that it's close so that you don't lose connection, and then that's how we got it done.
I guess this is like a hindsight question. Like with all that you've learned about monetization with content creation, what is something you wish you took advantage of in a very strategic and wisdom way, looking back
in terms of content or just I think I wish I would have recorded horizontally and prioritize YouTube, and then took that same strategy where I was recording for 30-40 minutes and then turning it into short form content later. I think I now that I'm making YouTube videos again, I can see how much value like having horizontal video is. Like it's so powerful. And also I think like there's so much more I could have shown with the long form like horizontal recording.
Dude, you know what's crazy? Here's what mine is for you. Kind of that.
Yeah.
Is like, yeah, you could have just like went live.
Oh wow.
And just 30 minutes, an hour, who cares?
The thing that's tough about that is like there's
something could happen.
Yeah, something could happen. I would hate for it to be live. I did think about that.
Yeah.
But I guess outside of caregiving, if it's not something that's sensitive information or like there's something that could happen, live is 100%. Because I mean, I was going live on Twitch and like I was live for 3.5 hours every single day, and there's so much content that could come from that. And I go home, have my editor go through the whole thing, and like, you know, it's so much easier.
Yeah, like my friend's dad, who's like he has like a well maintenance company. What he loves on YouTube is like watching people work.
Yeah.
So it's like just a wide shot in the corner of a garage or in the corner of a backyard.
Yeah.
And like somebody just mowing the lawn. Like, it's just wild what people. But it's back to that, like, you know, putting the human experience on, you know, a television.
Yeah, I see what my parents enjoy on YouTube. It's so funny to talk about this. They love like long form, 3-hour long walkthrough videos. Like people will be in the Philippines.
Oh my goodness.
Walking through the mall on like a Steadicam. Like nobody's talking. It's just literally like the camera is just going through the mall.
Going crazy.
It's crazy. And they just throw it on and they love watching and they love talking about like, oh, this is that store. We've been to that store before. I'd love to go here.
That's crazy.
And they just watch the whole thing. But I think it's just a testament to like, you just never know.
Right.
You never know what people are into. So just do your thing.
Yeah. Well, like what the types of content that's getting all my watch time is golf content. They're always longer videos, at least, you know, an hour usually. But it's just a matter is you throw it on and you leave it up. I imagine same with podcasting. Boom, just throw it on. Another one that's taking a lot is like live music for the house. You know, just jazz, lo-fi, boom, with an AI beach, you know, or a fireplace or cozy coffee shop.
Yeah.
And that's like more like on the faceless route, which people, you know, you can leverage that. And then another one that we just tend to throw on is we got the music, we have the golf, the podcasting. I just drew a blank. Home tours. Like even I'm not always paying attention.
Yeah.
It's just background content. And I think this is like, there's something insightful about it because it's not taking so much to create a lot of these. Right? Yeah. You just set it up and go. The Philippines thing, get a DJI Osmo Pocket.
Yeah.
And then just walk.
And just walk, bro. Like walk through the whole mall and just record what's going on. There's something interesting about long form too. I don't know what the psychology is, but at least for me, if I love Myron Golden, right? Like you put not personally, but you put me on to Myron Golden, and I always listen to him when I go out for a run. And it's funny because like if he were to drop a 7-minute video, the likelihood of me wanting to click on the 7-minute video is much lower than if he put out a 30 to 40-minute video.
Yeah.
Because I want to just listen to it
right.
and not have to like go to the next video. But like there's something about seeing a longer time that I'm more drawn to than like a shorter time.
I think that is something people don't realize, because like that is a time, the time of a video in it of itself is a value proposition. So sometimes a shorter video is the value proposition.
Yeah.
Like you can get this information. By the way, the newest trend I'm finding on YouTube right now that I'm just seeing is give me 9 minutes and I will whatever.
Oh, that's good.
And they're not heavily edited, but yes, time in it of itself is a value proposition. And hence why I want podcasts, because I was like, I want people to consciously make a decision to click on this video, knowing how long it is.
Yeah. And you know you're about to spend like 49 minutes, 50 minutes with Omar. And like, and it's so intimate, and like even just take out the buying in it, right? Take out like whatever it is that you're trying to sell them on the back end or whatever, like take all that out of it. Like building trust with somebody through long form content is so valuable.
Right.
Cause it's like, I just spent an hour with Omar, and I'm going to spend another hour with Omar next week, and another, and whatever. I'm not saying that I'm going to trust whatever you say, but there's so much trust within that.
It's hard for me to fake Omar
for 50 minutes. It's tough. And then if I go and see you in the street and I don't know you, I feel like I already know who you are. You know what I mean? So like, I forgot, I think there's a term for it, like people that listen to podcasts and then they feel like they have this like intimate relationship with the podcaster. Which I think, you know, we could go down a rabbit hole of like, is that even like a positive thing that we should be having with other people? But at the core of it, it's really just building a relationship with somebody,
right?
Whether they know it or not.
Yeah. So good, dude. Here's what I wrote down, like from your journey. I think a theme and principle is just document. Yeah. Like documenting actually has it's not as much foresight as it is. You're having foresight to be able to look back on. Right. So I mean, I think about, I recorded a podcast with Ruby right before she turned 5. She's 6 now, but I have this 50-minute conversation with Ruby that I'll have for the rest of my life. Yeah. And shout out, I cut up a clip, and LaCroix sends us packages all the time.
Let's go.
They don't pay us, but whatever. I'm down. It's cool that Ruby, she made the connection. Like this thing, the brand of the thing she's talking about is sending her gifts. Yeah. Like it's crazy.
It just like there's a light bulb went off for her.
But I think sometimes it's forget the business stuff. It's like, dude, just have a conversation with your mom. Have a conversation with your siblings. Yeah. My dad isn't in the best health. He's in the worst health he's ever had. And I think it'd be really cool if the 5 of us, me and my siblings and my mom and my dad, and we just asked them about their life. Like, I don't know if I've ever sat down and, you know, what went through your mind when you moved to the United States? They both moved here to go to college. My dad from Saudi Arabia, my mom from the Philippines. Yeah. And then found each other, like crazy. Yeah. But I'd love to just have that, you know, to document. I just pull that principle. Yeah. The second thing I pull from your story, bro, is motive. You know, and motive is how you do something, not necessarily what you're doing. And I would argue that how you do a thing is more important than what you're actually doing.
100%.
And every time you started something, you had a pure motive, which that rewards you from the point of, you know, a lack of disappointment. Yeah. Because your motives are pure, but it also creates a free experience of whatever it is you're trying or testing. There's no, you know, we're just going to do this because whatever, like, you know, so I pull that. I think that's good. I think, you know, you could document, you can unpack your motives. Maybe you have the reason why it might not be working for some people is because you have the wrong motive. Oof. Right. That's a bar. And you could feel back to like, people could feel your essence. Yeah. You could feel that like, they just want $1 from me or whatever. Yeah. And that's just, in a world where everything you do online is building your brand, whether it's good or bad. Yeah. Like, I don't believe there's a neutral position. I think you're either doing it in a good way or a bad way, and motive behind the brand is so important. Yeah. Were you going to say something to that?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. I think, even if you don't have your thing figured out, like documenting you going through the journey of trying to figure it out is so valuable to people. Cause think of how many people are in that same boat that you could speak to, telling them about what you're struggling to figure out.
Right.
So you build a community of people also trying to figure out whatever it is that they're trying to figure out.
100.
And you're just showing, and think about this. Like, I always think about like the early stages of really big brands. Like, think of how cool it would be to see the beginning of like a Coca-Cola, like people in the lab, like talking about like, yeah, this is really going to be successful or whatever. Like, or the garage days of Steve Jobs, like building
Apple.
If there
was video.
If there was like a live stream going on, you know how valuable that would be to people? And I think about that all the time, like with really big brands. Like, it'd be so cool to see the origin of that, of just raw, this is what's going on, we don't have it figured out, and then to like leap 20, 30 years later and to see how much they actually figured out in that time. There's so much value in just pure documentation.
Dude, so good. I would say I have a funny thought, and it's when people have videos of themselves crying.
Oh man, I don't know about that. That one.
I'm just like, bro, should I film myself crying? It
like,
works.
let me like set it up real quick.
It's just like, you know, and then you do the storytelling, and it's like, dang, dude, you filmed yourself. That's cool, man. I don't know. I don't know if that's like a female thing or a Gen Z thing. I don't know.
That's one thing I could never like get myself to do for sure. But like people who could have the wherewithal to like, if you're genuinely crying, and like, you know, turn the camera on, like, hey man,
run it, bro. Do you? Yeah. And then the third thing, you mentioned it, but it's like this pastor Jensen Franklin, he says, step out, then find out. But like, don't have all the answers. Figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
I actually don't think there's a way to figure it all out before the fact.
Yeah.
It's a principle that do it, go out and do the stuff, get the feedback.
Yeah. 100%. I've never taken one of your cash to content challenges, but I would imagine that a lot of people that are taking it, you're just giving them the validation to step out and just go and figure it out.
100.
Like sometimes people just need the little push to like, you need to try it, and like you've been holding yourself back. So let me hold your hand and take you out so you can start figuring it out. Because you can't figure it out from not doing. There's no process to learn from.
Which is literally like, that is the environment I want to create. An environment where you could find the enjoyment in it. And I really break it down so it sounds easier. Here's what I found. Most people are stuck at inaction because in their mind they've made it harder than it is. And so it does sometimes take a different voice or a trusted voice to say, here's 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Like, and then the challenge, it's like, go do it. There's actually stuff to do.
Yeah.
But dude, some dude just like hit us up and was like, bro, I took your challenge last year. He didn't join anything else. He just took the challenge, and he's like, I made 120K in a year from just the stuff I learned. He's like, bro, my family, like we moved into a nice apartment. He was like, we eat good. I don't know what that was like. We eat good. I'm like, dang, bro, what were you eating before? Of you. But yeah, dude, I realized that, you know, my conviction is that I think everyone should try it.
Yeah.
Try creating content, because your life could be your content, and it is, you know, especially the older crowd. Like, I love inspiring the older crowd because they actually have experience.
Yeah.
And they have so much experience and wisdom to offer us young people. And yeah, thanks for the plug. Anyway,
yeah. No, but I think what's really good also to tie in the trust factor is like, if they didn't trust you and spend all those hours with you, like there's no way they're going to listen to what you have to say for like the next, however long the challenge is, like 5 days, right? Like why would they take the time to pay you and then listen to you tell them, like, to give them some insight or whatever? Like, but I just think that's what building trust with your audience 100. Can, like, that's the value of it, right? Like, you built the trust with the audience, and now they trust you to lead them into a place that can actually change their life.
Right. I think the last thing I have on here is just trends. Like, here we are, beginning of whenever you're listening or watching this, but 2025.
Nice. Okay.
What do you see a shift, like the trending shift in social media as opposed to 2021, 2022?
I think you spoke on it earlier. I think it's the like, people are tired of like the sensationalism. Like, people just want human connection, and they want like real people like behind the lens. So that's why I think like, it's like Sam Sulek. I remember hearing a podcast where you're talking about Sam Sulek a long time ago. Like, I think that the long form, raw, just talking about your thing, like no crazy edits, like that's, to me that's what people are drawn to, because I think for a little bit we were really like wrapped up in the high edit, like go Mr. B. I hate to put Mr. Beast in that,
I mean,
but like
he led the charge in that.
Yeah,
every 7 seconds something changing on the screen.
Yeah, I think people just grow tired of that, especially like with reality TV, and like everybody is starting to realize, I guess, that like things on TV are scripted and like there's producers behind it. So people just want genuine connection with people online.
Yeah,
that's what they want. That's what they want.
Fire, bro.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Real quick before we wrap this up, I made this a point to bring this up to you.
Okay.
You don't have to like buckle in or anything, but like because you changed my life in many ways that I think you deserve to hear. So I was listening to the podcast you did with D and Gene on the Faction podcast. It was like September 9, 2023. I remember the day because it really changed my life. And you guys were you talked about a bunch of different things, but I remember like I never really had a relationship with God before that. Like I grew up in the church, like I went to church all the time, but I felt how you felt, like I need to be good with the man upstairs. You know what I mean? But I never felt like I had a relationship with God before that. And I remember after the podcast, I listened to the podcast on a run. After that, I ordered a Bible and just I just dove in,
bro, straight
in, and like just started reading, trying to understand. And I feel like that's when my whole life changed because of that. Like I then started to feel like I'm living a life for Christ. Like before that, I couldn't confidently say that.
Yep.
And it's funny because if you watch my transformation on the podcast, like you could see like, yo, this guy is like, there's something about him that's like changing. And maybe I'm the only one that sees it, but like there's so much transformation happening through that. And that's something that you can't see on YouTube. That's not a metric that's not seen on YouTube. That video has less than 1,000 views, but that video changed my life. And I think if that's not a testament to like, you need to just keep posting, because you don't know the type of impact that you have on people, you or anybody else watching this. Like take that and like use that as your motivation to keep posting, because you don't know what kind of blessing you could have on other people's life.
Bro, give me some. I love you.
Love you, man. That that video, like it truly changed my life. Like,
praise God.
Yeah. And
shout out to D and Gene.
Bro, they don't even do the podcast anymore.
Also, shame on D and
Gene.
It's crazy though.
Yeah.
It is, not all viewers are created equal. But each viewer is a human being. And it's same with the money thing. It's like you can get numb to the numbers.
100%.
You have a low performing video, it's a couple thousand views. It's like a low performing video, you got a couple thousand views.
Yeah.
Like that's
we're jaded, bro. Like people are just so jaded.
And dude, thanks for sharing that. That blessed me. And I think I will never know. I mean, I guess in when we get to heaven, we'll see based on the size of our mansion.
Right.
But then even then we the Bible says we like lay it all, we get the reward and then we just lay it back on his feet.
Yeah. So. And I just, again, like I never commented on that video. I never texted you like, hey Omar, like this video changed my life. But like, think about how many times that has happened throughout your content where people they didn't even take the time to leave a comment, but they go and live a life that's completely different.
Yeah.
And maybe it's not up to us to like know all these little seeds that we're planting. But I think, I just think that's why it's important to document and do your thing.
Dude, love you, bro.
Yeah, I love you, man. Thank you.
So good. Dang.
Cool.
Shame on them.
How long was that?